All right, so here's a quick example of starting with a message. So here's one that said hot water wasn't working. We can push this to a maintenance ticket and this will create a new ticket, and it will have by default the description here. And then we can easily pick a vendor. I'm going to do no vendor for now so we can see how that goes. And then I'm going to pop back over to tasks real quick and pick up on that one. Okay, so from here we can see that this is the task that got started. So by default, it's in medium status for priority. It's a request that came in, and we're going to have a SMS of how we're going to do it. So we can see that there's a linked message. So this is the one message here. You could link multiple messages to the same, and so you'd list them all here. This is your internal comment, so you can chat with different team members if you need to have a chat about it. You can add attachments, etc. That's just your internal chat on the task. At the end, you can always download a task record, which will give you a PDF of everything that occurred. The only thing it wouldn't have would be any video, picture attachments, so you just need to download those yourself. Now let's go ahead and click edit. So we can see all the information here as we were looking at earlier. Now maybe I click AI drafting. So by default it filled in the description for one message, but maybe I attached 3 or 4 messages in here. And here we could currently, so here you can see it drafted based on the messages, a description so that this will be sent to the vendor. If I had multiple messages that were linked down below, it would have used those to create the description. So you can kind of have a detailed description without you having to write it. Of course, you can then always tweak and add to this as you see fit. And this is like your status is in. You would always just leave this in requests, and that priority by default is medium. These hours come in from your maintenance task settings where you can change what you expect for those. Let's say that I expect this to be high, and the category in this case is a appliance. Now you'll notice when I change it to appliance, there now is a linked appliances. So I don't have any appliances set up underneath this property specifically, but if I did, I could pick the actual appliance that is having the issue. And this will then track number of tickets and spend on these tickets over time to a specific appliance so that you can help that you can use that information to make a judgment on when it makes sense to maybe replace an appliance. And if you're on the pro account, the AI Pulse system will actually suggest to you and bring it up if it thinks that it's time to change an appliance based on just number of tickets and issues you've experienced. Here you can assign it to somebody on your team if you would like, or you can leave it as unassigned. And then you have vendors based on all the vendors you have set up in your vendor CRM. You would select one or more, you would select whatever vendor you want, and you can see there based on the priority you have them set, they would be set there. So you can select those. Here's the member automatically that reported it. This is filled in automatically if you pushed it over from a message, and then you could set a due date that you expect for this to be fixed and add any attachments that you want. Again, you can see all the information below. Now, once you save this, it'll say task updated, and then you'll have a button to send this to a vendor. So I'll walk you through how it looks like on the vendor side. We're going to go full process from start to finish. You simply would click send this to a vendor. The vendor will instantaneously get a text message, and the note will tell you that it moved it to open status. You'll also see if I close this little box, that there's a vendor chat with the assigned vendor. So that just appeared between here. There's the task status. You can see all of the changes over time and date and time that it moved through the process. And you can quickly see the vendor chat here. So this, you might be able to chat with a vendor. It's a two-way chat. So typically they have all the information that they're going to need on the ticket. And then let's pop over to the vendor side so you can see what that looks like. So just real quickly, you can see this is my text message system. So you can see the message that comes in. It says who it's from. It's a high maintenance ticket. And this is what is the task name, as well as the property and a link to the vendor portal. So the vendor simply clicks on this from their text message. This opens to their portal. If they weren't logged in, they just have to punch in their phone number and it will give them a 6-digit code to get them logged in. I was already logged in, so it just jumped right in. So this is what the vendor sees. This works, generally they're going to be doing it from their mobile phone, but it works the same on mobile. So they can see all of the description, everything here, and who was assigned by. And then if a vendor has multiple people on their team, the vendor can assign it to various people, or they can assign it to themselves. That will then take note that it was assigned, who it was assigned to. And this will auto show up as well on your side within the vendor chat in just a few seconds. So you can see that was auto assigned. Okay, you can also see that if the owner or anybody from the vendor's team reassigns the task to somebody else, that also will get noted in the messages. So let's say they come here, you can see that they have a button for accept job, and they simply click accept the job. Now here's where the vendor can quote you. So let's say that they usually have an hourly rate. They put $50, they estimate it'll take 2 hours, and maybe they have a travel fee that's optional, and they leave you a note that says they can start tomorrow. And they leave you a note saying they can start tomorrow. So this is what they can see on their side, and then they can simply accept the job. Okay? So because that job is accepted now, they're ready to start the work. Now typically they'd be going there the next day and they would come back to this page and be able to start the work. You can also see from here where they can see all work that they've done. There's guidebooks for all different vendors. For every section, it kind of walks them through how the system works. But they maintain all tasks that they do here, all forms. If you haven't been to forms yet, you can have automatic forms that get assigned to various people. All their alerts exist here, as well as every alert comes to them via text message. They can see what hosts they work with and different jobs they've done, as well as which properties they have on their side. And they can actually auto-assign. Here they can auto-assign various people on their team on a per property level. So this vendor portal is really designed for either a single operator vendor, such as a single handyman, or maybe a cleaner with a cleaning team that dispatches various team members. They can see their various team members and what they are. They can set default hourly rates for various people and default trip fees, as well as different flat rate services that are all saved by a team member level. They can transfer ownership to a different team member if they need. Vendors are directly paid through here, so they connect their own Stripe account through PadPulse, and the vendor gets charged 3% of the total for a processing fee on PadPulse's side. The host also pays 3%, which is the Stripe credit card fee that you get charged pretty much anywhere else that you process cards. That's pretty much it for kind of the vendor side. They have their own profile, different FAQs to help them, and a vendor marketplace, which allows them to get other jobs from other hosts if the vendor wanted to do that. So let's jump back to the task side so we can see one of these active tasks. So let's say then this estimate will appear on your side automatically within seconds of the vendor quoting it. So you can kind of see what they expect to bid you. And then you could always come down and say, you can chat with a vendor. And you can see this. We get the message at the bottom, and it tells them, hey, this is that they got a message. So via text, they'll get a message. They click on it. They know that you responded. And then it'll take them back to this page, and they'll see your message. And so they can simply reply, and you basically have a two-way chat on somebody about a task. This is really helpful, as currently you're probably bouncing around various text messages, various WhatsApp, and that doesn't translate well if you have a team member now that either starts with you tomorrow and needs to pick up, or a team member that leaves you tomorrow and you have to kind of go back and jump into their system. So this is just a very clean way to communicate, regardless of team size on either your team size or on the vendor's team side. So back here on tasks, let's say the vendor goes and they hit start work. If this was a hourly task, it'll start tracking time. And so they can simply be on the job and they can pause it if they wanted to. They can resume it. They can add manual time if they forgot to do it correctly, and it will note that that time was out on your side. They can always put a task on hold if there was something where they needed a part after they arrived at If after they arrived at the property they found they needed a part for something, they could always put the task on hold. And that way on your side, you'll know that the status has changed. So that'll be a status updated. And you'll be able to see kind of everything that's happening. So this will move here in a second. So here you can see it is now on a on hold status, which is done here. And it shows that the vendor did it in their date and time. So you can see everything that happened. And it also moves to your on hold status here. All right. So you can always chat back and forth. Why is this on hold, etc. That can all be done in this chat. You can send videos, pictures, either direction. And let's say the vendor gets done and maybe they could decline it. And if they decline it, you'll get notified that they declined it, and then you would reassign to a different team member if that was to happen. But ultimately, when they click on resume here, that gets them back on the status of being done. All right, so the vendor can then pick it back up as in progress. They can resume their time, and when they're done, they simply mark complete. When the task is marked complete, it's going to show there, and the price is going to update based on the actual time spent in this case because it wasn't a flat rate job. We only had a few seconds in our testing that we did on the timer, so it automatically adjusted to the final amount here. From your side, this project then moves over to a status of completed, and you can see the completed actual charges. So in this case, labor was only 46 cents due to just being for a couple of minutes while we were testing. We can see the total charges, and then from there, this task is essentially completed. You can scroll down, and right here, there's going to be a approve or pay button, which will show up shortly. Otherwise, you can scroll over and you can see that task here, and there's approve or pay here. So once you click approve and pay, it takes you to this page here. It'll land you on this page here, which is in your vendor payments, and you can see all of the details again about this project. You can pay through PadPulse, which by default is going to pay with your credit card. It's going to require it's going to pay with your credit card that has the card that you already have attached and assigned to this property, so it'll always pay with the correct credit card. That's by far the simplest way that's going to help with your bookkeeping. Or you can add a manual payment, and then you could select a different card or a different type of payment at the bottom. Note that this is going to, if you select a card here, this is essentially only should be selecting a card if you, for some reason, are manually telling your vendor to run a card, as that's going to require you to communicate outside of PadPulse and take extra steps on your end, so we highly don't recommend that. Also, if you do it this way, you are accepting that you're going to be charged the PadPulse fees versus the vendor. So we definitely recommend to pay with PadPulse. And here you can give them overall, or you can give various ratings for different things and leave a comment and put your name on the review if you'd like or not. And then you're going to hit confirm and pay. That's going to go ahead and process. It's going to say task approved and payment charged. You'll then be able to see in your payment history right there that any ones that they ran. And if you had any manual payments, you'll be down here and you could edit a manual payment or avoid a manual payment. As always, there's a guide separately in their vendor payments. Back to tasks. I know this is kind of a long video, but you can kind of see it moves through. And now that task is showing as paid and closed. And if you don't need to see paid and closed, you can simply hide that from your board. This really shows you the different ones that you've paid in any given month. So just kind of sees what is pending in total jobs, and you can filter that accordingly to various months that you may have paid. And that's pretty much a wrap for tasks. A lot of details here. If you have any suggestions or feedback or find anything that doesn't seem to be working appropriately, please, as always, submit us a message down here from our chat box, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you.